Hey, this is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and welcome to episode 289 of the Kevin's Barbecue Joints podcast. And this one's a really great one. It's with Jim Buchanan from Dozier's Barbecue in Fulshear, Texas. I think I'm mispronouncing that, but it's west of Houston. And I think he even lets me know how to pronounce it properly. This one's intriguing because Jim has been through a lot in the barbecue business, and he's had Mother Nature come and wipe out his business right before it opened. We talk about all the different steps and things that have happened along the way, but he's persevered. There's been moments where, most people probably would have given up, but he sticks to it, and now he's here at Dozier's, and the path is so intriguing. It's about an hour interview and touch on pretty much every subject within the barbecue world, as well as what Dozier's offers. And they have 4 components to their business. He'll go into depth about that. It's definitely a place you want to visit. They're open Tuesday through Sunday from 11 till 7. He's actually talking about adding dinner to certain nights. And one of the big reasons I wanted to talk to him because they have brunch, and their brunch sounds amazing. They have pork steak, and they have things with biscuits, and he goes into depth about the entire menu for all different things, and you can tell that his wheels are always spinning and about their pits and the Mobergs they have, and what kind of barbecue he really is trying to represent. And he's just forthcoming. He's got great attitude. He's got great knowledge about food and barbecue and the barbecue culture and the barbecue family. And I really, really think you're going to enjoy this. I can't thank Jim enough for taking the time. It was a pleasure sitting down with him. And when you're in Houston, you definitely should stop by Dozier's. And I'm excited to announce that the Kevin's Barbecue Joints YouTube show and podcast is also brought to you by Flores Tortillas. This has been a little while in the making, but I can't be more excited about having Michael on board with Flores Tortillas. Flores Tortillas are my favorite tortillas. They're made with smoked beef tallow. They are delicious. I think I've sent them to a dozen people across the United States. And if you can get your hands on some, I'll put a list below. Dozier's carries Flores tortillas, so that's cool. That's another reason to stop by Dozier's, because they have their grocery with local good. They have Flores tortillas, but they're just fantastic. They go on sale every Monday at 10 a.m. Central Texas time online, and they do sell out very quickly. They're also available at a bunch of barbecue spots and even a spot in Virginia. I'll put all that information below, and I've written a piece about where you could find Flores tortillas. But I'm excited to have them on board, and I'll give you guys additional information about that in future episodes. And I'm also sponsored by Centex Smokers. They're out of Luling, Texas. Check them out at Centex_smokers. Michael is doing amazing pits. The pits are gorgeous, amazing. Every week it seems like there's something new coming out. He is now, and I wanted to correct myself. I've been saying his lead time is 4 to 5 months. His lead time is actually 12 to 14 months now because he's become so popular. So if you do want to get an order in, give him a DM. Again, Centex_smokers. And get a quote and get your order in line because his lead time is starting to go out further. So again, Flores Tortillas, Centex Smokers, can't think of better partners to have for the show. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and do enjoy this interview with Jim at Dozier's Barbecue. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. How's your day going? How's your week going? And how is 2021 hitting you?
2021 has actually been really, really good. We've been incredibly fortunate during the pandemic where, many of my friends in this industry have been struggling. We're experiencing a bit of a resurgence.
Wow. Can you pinpoint why, or is there a specific reason why, do you think?
It would be difficult for me to really put my finger on it. I think it's basically a number of factors that have just kind of combined and snowballed into where we are now.
First off, let's talk about is it Dozier's or Dozier's or
Yeah, it's Dozier's.
Dozier's? Okay,
Yeah,
Dozier's, and listen, we'll say it a bunch of times that way it'll stick in people's heads. And it's
sure.
Doziers, and that's someone's last name, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's the business is named after Ed Dozier,
Okay.
who was a very popular, very famous barbecue guy from 1950s. He started Dozier's in Fulshear, Texas, in 1957, and it actually started out as a grocery store. And he's to add barbecue pieces here or there. It eventually became known as like a destination barbecue place on the far west side of Houston.
That's kind of the story for a lot of places in the history of Texas barbecue. Is they were a market or they were a butcher shop, and then they kind of added that barbecue part to their business. Like, that sounds it makes sense. It wouldn't make sense like in Los Angeles. That's not usually how it really works, but that definitely makes sense. Was the deer processing part of it, was that always there too?
It started out as a grocery store. Fulshire is a small community. It's a fair distance from back in the 50s. It was a fair distance from anything. The people in the community needed to have access to groceries. There was a smokehouse in Fulshire called Myers Smokehouse.
Okay.
Dozier's did not start off as a smokehouse and a deer processing plant. It just kind of developed into that over the years.
And deer processing, because when I came to Texas, I started driving around, and I've mentioned this before the show. I had never seen deer processing. I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Can you explain briefly what that is too?
Yeah, deer processing is big business in Texas.
Yeah.
There are a lot of white-tailed deer in Texas, particularly in South Texas. Deer season is an event of its own down here. Hunters go out, they harvest the animal. They'll typically skin and quarter it and bring it to us, and then we'll break the animal down, turn it into sausages or jerky, any other cuts that they're looking for.
And so they're coming specifically, and I looked actually a few days ago on your menu too. You guys list what you guys will do with that
Right.
deer carcass, and you can't bring can you bring a full deer, like, for people that don't know how to break down deer, or is that something you would hope that people can do on their own?
We prefer that they come in quartered, but we can take a whole animal. We charge extra to skin it. We charge extra to break it down. But for the most part, people bring them in. Experienced hunters typically bring them in field dressed and quartered. But we can do it all for them.
Yeah, and people load up their freezers, and that's something that they have for a lot. Yeah, it's unique to areas that have actually hunting and as part of their daily life, because Los Angeles, again, I know friends that are hunters, but a lot of people go out and they hunt bird. I don't think deer is so big here, but there's places too, like where you drive around the country and there's deer everywhere. They're like running across the road, like you have to watch out all the time for deer. That's
us here.
That's not not here at all. It's funny too, but I didn't see. Is that more prevalent down closer to where you are?
I think it's all over the state. But Texas isn't the only area where there's a heavy deer population. You look at Ohio. Washington. There's a lot of hunters in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. It's pretty widespread.
Yeah.
And in areas where hunting is a part of their culture, there's those guys get really, really, really into it.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, no, it's a passion. It's definitely, and my Instagram feed during certain times of year is full of people posing with their catch, whatever my catch.
Right.
They're kill.
Their catch.
They're not catching it and taking it home as a pet. And now are people coming in to process and then getting barbecue? Is that part of the?
Typically how it works. Yeah.
Okay.
So Dozier's, we actually have 4 distinct business units all combined under one roof. We're still a small grocery store, although we transitioned more from convenience items more into like specialty grocery items with a heavy focus on things that are made locally, local, somewhat relevant, but Fulshire's a small community. There's not a whole lot of stuff being made there. But we're not the corner shop anymore. We've got several large grocery stores within a 3-mile radius. So we're not trying to compete with them. We're trying to bring in things that are people are not going to find at the big grocery store chains.
That's smart.
And then we also have a full meat market. We don't do whole carcass butchering. We'll bring in the subprimal cuts and then break them down in house. But we carry only beef from 44 Farms, which is a Texas-based cattle company. It's Black Angus cattle. It's all, I buy all upper choice, which is about as close to prime as you can get without paying for prime. It's all natural, grass-fed, grain-finished, hormone-free, antibacterial-free. It's just really, really good meat.
Yeah.
And then we have a smokehouse, smokehouse program where we make all of our own sausages. We have 13 different styles of sausage. Bacon, jerky, snack sticks, basically anything that you could find in a smokehouse, we've got it on our premises.
Okay, I'm gonna stop this right now. I hate you in the best way. Oh, the Lord. And then you have your barbecue.
We have the barbecue.
And the barbecue too, like that. I wanted to look at the because I know on Sunday you have a Sunday brunch too. And I'm
Yeah, I just
skipping
started
around,
that.
but there's
I just started that last weekend. My background is
yeah.
my background in barbecue is one of those guys who's always trying to find something different to do with smoked proteins. You know, take a cultural influence from some other region and find a way to turn it into a barbecue dish. It's been affectionately referred to as Goofy Q over the past 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one yet. Okay.
I'm that guy. One of the food editors from the Chronicle, Greg Morego, referred to me in writing one time as a nonconformist, and I've embraced that. That's kind of what I've been known for through my barbecue travels. But when I came out to Dozier's, which is this storied, legendary barbecue place, I was pretty candid with everybody that I was going to try and leave that yoke of nonconformity behind me, and just focus on the traditional barbecue. Try to really not reinvent it, but evolve it into more modern day standards. The brunch service was something that we added simply because we're in the fastest growing city in the U.S. with a population of more than 10,000, and they're throwing up bedroom communities all around us, and there's just not really that many dining options for folks. And I saw what I thought
That's
was
smart.
I saw what I thought was a pretty big area of opportunity doing a Sunday brunch, because there just isn't anything like that in this area. And I had a brunch in my previous restaurant. I had a pretty robust barbecue brunch menu, and I saw a way to take a stripped down version of that and apply it in this setting without really going too far away from the history of the place.
Let's go back for people that haven't listened to Tales from the Pits or read anything from Alison Cook or JC or Daniel. Like somehow they haven't heard your backstory. Can we go back a little bit further, at least to and it's you've been very open about it's been a struggle. It hasn't been this easy road of you didn't just have a pop up and then boom you have a restaurant with it's been tough. Some challenges along the way.
Yeah, my friends like to joke with me that Mother Nature really has it in for me. I started my commercial barbecue career started with a guy named Wes Gerena, who I became friends with on the competition barbecue circuit.
Okay.
Wes and I just kind of clicked when we met. And one day he called me up and he said, "Hey, I got laid off from my government job. I'm gonna buy a trailer and sell barbecue. What do you think?" And I said, "Hey man, that sounds great."
And is this in Houston or outside?
This is
in
Houston. Yeah,
okay,
this is in Houston. And so we started we started slinging barbecue out of a trailer under the Papa Charlie's barbecue banner. This was in late 2013, early 2014. Okay. When what's now called craft barbecue was really just starting to take off in Texas, and developed a pretty solid reputation. People thought we were pretty good and said, "Hey, you should open a restaurant." So we did, and we toiled along in the shadows of downtown Houston, the area that's called East Downtown, right near Minute Maid Park, where the Astros play, and developed a pretty solid reputation. But again, that whole brand of non-conformity, the Goofy Q thing, was something that was kind of like our badge of honor.
Was that just like wacky ideas, like really or like really out there?
Yeah, some of it was, some of it wasn't. We would do things like smoked meatball subs, which you'll probably see pop up here in the next couple of weeks.
Delicious.
Bacon wrapped smoked meatloaf. We were doing stuff with Asian influences. We were using char siu, gochujang. We were using stuff with Indian spices like masalas, just anything that we could think of that was from a different cultural background that we thought would apply to smoked proteins in a Texas barbecue restaurant. We were really trying to embrace that. Now, a shining example of what we were doing then, they were also doing it at the same time as Blood Brothers Barbecue.
Yeah, it sounds like stuff that you see now.
Yeah,
you're a little bit maybe too early for it. Maybe.
No, I don't think we were. Like I said, Blood Brothers, they started as a pop up. roughly the same time that
Okay.
Papa Charlie's did, and the same with Pat Fegis and Aaron Smith at Fegis Barbecue. We all kind of came up at the same time, and we were all kind of playing around with stuff. Just somehow Wes and I got pigeonholed as the Goofy Q guys. It might
Gotcha.
have something to do with the Butterfinger brisket that I was churning out, but it just kind of got crazier and crazier along the way.
Okay. I see. And was that the restaurant that Harvey hit?
No. So I left Papa Charlie's in 2017, decided I wanted to hang my own banner. I was going through just some life changes, and my father had passed not too long before that, and I wanted to do something to kind of honor him, carry on his legacy. Because I don't have any kids, so I left Papa Charlie's and started Buck's Barbecue, named it after my dad. And we were going into a building in the Heights area of Houston, just to the north of downtown. And the day we were supposed to have our soft open was the day that Hurricane Harvey hit town.
Oh. And did it destroy the building,
Yeah.
or did it just flooded everything?
Yeah, it flooded. We were actually on national news. The building is a 2-story building along the edges of a bayou called White Oak Bayou, and the entire first floor was underwater. We had 2 semi trucks washed into the building. It was just it was a total loss.
Oh, so at that moment, what do you think? Like, is that number one? Can you get flood? Like, can you get hurricane and flood insurance? Is that something that people can get in Houston area, or is that so exorbitant for a business to get? Is that too?
You can get it. It gets cost prohibitive,
Yeah.
and flood protection really only applies to the property owners. And I wasn't a property owner.
That's true.
I was basically a subtenant, a
That tenant,
sublessee. Yeah, sublessee. And we didn't get anything out of it. We'd spent a fair amount of money, getting ready to open up, and it was all gone in the blink of an eye.
And this is you and your wife, right?
Yeah, I had some investors who were along for the ride. There was a lot of excitement. I'd already done a menu preview with Eric Sandler from Culture Map, and it was just literally just wake up one morning and you're like, well, that was fun.
And so what do you like? How do you deal with that? Like, I just emotionally, like, you already dealt with your father passing. That's a big deal, and you're honoring him with this restaurant, and then Mother Nature comes and just wipes that out. Is there a period of time where you're just kind of aimless? Like, I just don't know how. I just know how I would react, but that's tough. That's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time in the military, and my training in the military always taught me, you don't quit, you just keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other until you reach the objective. And I looked at it this way: I could lay on the couch and cry about it and wait for somebody to save me, or I could pick up the pieces and try to make lemonade out of the lemons.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We bought a small trailered barbecue pit and got connected with some guys who owned a brewery not too far away from where we were opening the restaurant, and started slinging barbecue on the weekends, just trying to build some brand awareness.
And was under the Bucks name?
Under the Bucks name, yeah. That I just wasn't walking away from that. And we lived the pop-up life for several years. It's not. And there was a point where I was in residency in a bar in East Downtown called Lucky's Lodge, where I was the house entertainment, providing barbecue for lunch and dinner. And then I was also doing pop-ups at 2 other locations. So I'd shut down service at Lucky's Lodge and hook up the trailer and all of my stuff and go someplace else and pop up. And then the next day you do it all over again. It was a grind, but we were trying to build something.
Mm-hmm. And then when the Dozier's opportunity came about, that took some thinking too to decide whether or not you wanted to do that, right?
Yeah. So there's one piece in between.
Oh, there is.
In between the pop-up life and Dozier's. We were looking the whole time we were popping up. We were looking for another location to set up a brick and mortar, but the timing was, at that point, the timing was really, really bad. Barbecue had literally exploded in the Houston area, and commercial property rates had gone through the roof. So it was making it really difficult for us to find a spot that made sense, where you weren't already saturated with competition, and you could afford the rents. We found an opportunity in Galveston, which is an island down south of Houston,
Yeah.
to take over an existing restaurant that was not a barbecue restaurant, but the owners wanted out of the business. We're basically looking for somebody to come in, pay rent, and take over their business. And they thought it would be a good idea to, kind of fold in the barbecue theme, not turn it into a barbecue restaurant, but continue with the Gulf Coast menu, the comfort food menu, and fold barbecue into it, which to me was perfect. Literally, I'd spent my entire professional career as a barbecue guy trying to figure out how to infuse smoked proteins into other dishes, and this was, just like a blank canvas for me.
And did you do that?
We did. We went to Galveston. I was very optimistic about it, pie in the sky, if you will. We went to Galveston and got a lot of critical acclaim. We're not really met with open arms by a lot of the local residents. There was a lot of resentment towards us because people felt like we were ruining a much beloved restaurant, which
Oh, okay. So it was one of those things. And no, that makes,
yeah.
I could see people doing that stuff. Yeah.
And we went into it, and we went into it and told people up front, look, we're not turning it into a barbecue restaurant. I mean, I kept the entire kitchen staff. We kept all the recipes. We didn't really change much of anything. The only thing different was the people that were running the place were different. The name changed because the previous restaurant name was not my business name,
Yeah.
and it didn't reflect everything that we were trying to do. So we had some hits and some misses. And then in January of 2019, we closed our doors. Was it 19? Maybe it was 2020. We closed our doors. Yeah, it must have been 2020. So we closed our doors. Just weren't going to be able to make it into the tourist season. And looking at it in hindsight, that's probably not a bad thing because coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. Tourist isn't all of a sudden.
January or March. What does it matter? We would have closed our doors anyway.
Yeah.
So that we closed in January, and the guys from Dozier started calling me pretty much immediately. They were looking for somebody to come in and take over the ship and kind of put them on the path to success. And I went and met with them, and now here we are.
Wow. And you know what this story tells you too is, and it's that military mentality, but it's also the sticking to something. This is something you're really passionate about. This is something you really want to do. Just keep plugging away, pushing forward. But it's also it's something that you really want to do, and you're trying to make as best decisions as you could. And they seem like, when in hindsight, all really good decisions, but you just kept sticking at it. So for people that maybe are listening to this, that are down or that are interested in opening a business, be it a food business or something else, you can do it. It's not always an easy path, but look where it's amazing that we're talking right now after all that has happened. I'm sure there were moments where, even though you're diligent and you're working hard, you're still probably, there are moments where like, what the heck is going on here? This is really hard.
Yeah, it really is. It exacted a pretty significant emotional and mental toll. I'm fortunate to have a very strong network of friends, a very, very supportive and strong wife, who kept kind of putting things in perspective for me. I wasn't ready to quit in Galveston. Basically my wife had to sit me down and say, look, it's time. We're not going to be able to do this for much longer, and let's walk away while we have the opportunity. It's tough. The food and beverage industry is very tough in general. Barbecue is especially tough because, in no disrespect to guys working in conventional restaurants, but barbecue is extremely long hours. You start before the sun comes up, and you're usually there long after the sun goes down. And it's just a complete grind.
The fluctuation of meat prices, there's so many things, and especially now, I think meat prices are going up, right?
Yep. They're on the rise.
And they were obviously in the rise during the pandemic, but it seems like I'm starting to see a lot of people. I'll post something, and then all of a sudden it's like discussion about meat prices and nothing about what I posted. So obviously it's something that's heavy on people's minds, but it's also it's hard to pass that on to the customer, but they have to understand, and I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, some people do and some people don't. I've had a lot of conversations over the last week or two with my peers who are faced with the same thing. The cost of brisket is gone through the roof. The cost of pork is on the rise, and the consumers don't really understand. They go to the grocery store and they see that they can buy a brisket for $1.99 a pound, and they're like, "Why am I paying $20 a pound for brisket?" Well, I mean, you may be paying $2 a pound for a select grade brisket. I'm paying significantly more than that for a choice grade brisket. And after I trim it and cook it, it's really only a 40% yield. So let's just say my average raw weight cost is $9.50 per pound. That doesn't factor any expense for spices, for wood, for labor, and when it takes 18 hours to cook a brisket, there's a fair amount of labor expense in that. We don't make any money on brisket. It's a complete loss leader, but you have to cook it in Texas because that's what people expect. You try to make up some of the margin on the other proteins and on the sides, but $20 a pound for brisket, you're not making any money at all.
That's you are the very first person that said that. Like, I've known that, or at least assumed that, but I've also heard with beef ribs too. Beef ribs for a lot of people are the beef short ribs are loss leader too, or it's like a reason to get people in, and then but it depends on, I guess it depends on the business.
Yeah, so I don't really cook beef ribs. I love to cook beef ribs. It's one of my favorite cuts. That and prime rib. But beef ribs are that wow factor. People are like, I want one of those big dino ribs that weighs 2 pounds on the bone. And then when you charge them $24 a pound,
yeah, they're like, what?
You're literally not making $1 at $24 a pound. And they're faced with paying $35 to $40 for one beef rib. They look at you and they're like, why is it so expensive?
Yeah, you're not making money, and they're like mad that it's like 40.
Yeah, so I don't even cook them, except for on very rare occasions, just because the people in our market they don't understand the concept of paying $40 for one beef rib. And frankly, I don't blame them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it's also that's a lot of money. They're delicious, they're wonderful, and prime rib too. You're like a man after my soul. Like prime rib, it holds such a special place in my heart. Like anytime I see when a barbecue place has prime rib, it's like, oh gosh, that's just that's amazing, because not a lot of places do. I want to talk about your menu in depth, but let's talk a little bit about you kind of mentioned the barbecue community, barbecue family. Didn't something happen? Wasn't right at the beginning of the pandemic? Didn't like Blake come out? But didn't you have some sort of event or something?
Yeah, so there's this phrase called #barbecue_family, and for the most part, we really do believe in it. There are a few guys that don't, they don't really play along. They're more focused on themselves, but it's really an interesting phenomenon. We're bound together by the common experiences, all of the struggles, the long hours, and we do have a great sense of community. And a lot of us, talk to each other regularly. In fact, I had lunch yesterday with several guys. Brett Bourne from Brett's Backyard.
Oh yeah, I saw that he was out there.
Yeah. Russell Regal, Misty Regal. We talk to each other regularly, and we share experiences. We ask for advice, and it's a great thing. So Blake Stoker from Blake's Barbecue in Martin, Tennessee, is a friend of mine. Who guy practically lives in Texas. That's a joke. He doesn't really live here, but he spends a lot of time in Texas learning about Texas barbecue, which is the style that he practices in Tennessee. He and Brian Bingham from Bodacious Barbecue on Moberly and I were talking about doing an event together at my place in Galveston. And then we closed, so that didn't happen. But I was looking for an opportunity to cook with both of those guys. So we did an event last fall, brought them down, did a collaboration, and it was really, really special because everybody had been pinned up because of the pandemic for a solid 6 to 7 months. And I had just added a lot of picnic tables in our outdoor seating area. So it's a chance for people to show up and visit with each other in a outdoor setting that was socially distanced, and to have a chance to eat some stuff that was pretty unique. I think Brian did chicken mole boudin, which was just ridiculously good. Blake did his signature pimento cheese. Yes. We did a collaboration sausage. I mean, it was just a good time. We had like 300 people out here. It was crazy.
Yeah, and it was actually kind of the first time I saw humans get together again. Like
Yeah.
it was inspiring because it was also frustrating that I was penned up watching it like on the
Yeah.
internet. But it was beautiful. It was nice, and it was also, again, it showed that family exists no matter what happens. A terrible pandemic comes through, and still, like, you guys were able to pull that off and make that happen. And I'm sure you're more than excited, just like anybody else, for the festivals and the different events to come back, because that's a way to reconnect with people.
Yeah, that's you nailed it right there. I said the barbecue community is very tight knit, but we all work the same days. So we don't really get to see each other very often. And festivals is really the only venue when we can all come together. Like for example, the Houston Barbecue
Mhm.
Festival is probably the biggest that we all get to join together again, and it's only on a Sunday. Well, we're there all day Saturday, and on Saturday night we have what we call family meal, where we all get together, we all cook something, and we're just hanging out, talking, eating together. Getting to have that sense of community that we don't really get to experience during the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I'm sure that JC and Fulmer are both itching to figure out a time when it's safe to have a festival again and do that again, because and it is that night. I always see that night before you guys are
Mhm.
all eating and drinking, and people cook up, some of us cook up steaks, some of us do this and whatever, like making bite-sized pieces, and this, it just looks like that's what barbecue's about, and that's what it truly, and it is really the people, and it's the connections. And a lot of times, and I've even mentioned on the show, a lot of people don't understand why I love barbecue so much. And it's not just because I'm like this crazy carnivore, which maybe I am, but it's also, it's the people, it's the connections. And there's people that I text all the time or DM, and it's so nice to, you've created these friendships, and that you have even more so because you've been in physical contact with all these people. It's really, really nice. Let's talk about your menu now. Are there
Yeah.
always 13 sausages?
Yeah, we do 13 sausages. No, those are not on the barbecue side. That's on the meat market
That's on
side.
the meat market side. Okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about the meat market side first,
Sure.
because that's really the foundation of what we do. We have 13 different styles of sausage we have available every day in the meat case. We have house smoked bacon that's pretty famous in its own right. It's referred to as presidential bacon because George H.W. Bush was so fond of it that when he was in the White House, he would fly an aide down on Air Force One to collect whole slabs of bacon, and fly it back to D.C. so he could have it available to him. Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
yeah, we do. So we do a regular bacon, then we do a peppered bacon, and we sell a lot of it. We have 7 different styles of jerky. We do our own snack sticks, also known as Slim Jims. We actually have 4 different styles of Slim Jims. We do a venison and pork blend. We do a beef. We do jalapeno cheese. We do a straight cheese. We've got a lot of offerings on the smokehouse side. That translates into the barbecue side. On the barbecue side, the menu is fairly traditional. We have brisket, we have pork ribs. I cook St. Louis cut pork ribs. We do turkey, which is whole lobe turkey. We have pit ham. Then on the barbecue side, we sell every day of the week. We serve 2 different styles of sausage, and on the weekends we have 3 different styles of sausage available. And it kind of rotates, just depends on what I feel like cooking that day. We do smoked boudin, and then we do chicken by the half.
I was reading somewhere that it's by the pound. Like, people aren't saying like, I want to slice. Is there something different about that you're everything, because isn't it always by the pound, or am I going crazy? Or
No, it's so traditionally in Texas, meat is priced by the pound.
hmm,
If you go back to the Central Texas meat market style barbecue, it's everything is priced by the pound, and you can order whatever quantity you want. What I tell people is Dozers used to be known for doing plates. Plates
okay,
just did not make sense from an economic standpoint. Plates don't make sense. It's almost impossible to cut an exact quarter pound of meat. So if you price a plate out, it has a quarter pound of one meat and a quarter pound of another meat, and you take 2 slices of brisket and it's over a quarter pound. What are you going to do?
yeah,
Right? You're going to cut one of those slices of beef in half and put it on the plate for the customer to complain that you cut their brisket in half? No. So the way you transition to a model that's more fair to the business and puts the power in the hands of the consumer is you do away with the plates, where you're telling them you're getting this much meat in this many sides, and you basically say, okay, here's what we offer, you tell us what you want.
Yeah.
We'll cut whatever quantity of the proteins that you want. Some people have a hard time visualizing, well, what's a half pound of brisket look like? And what I'll tell them is when they come to the block, I'll tell them, hey, just tell me how many slices you want,
Okay.
or tell me when to stop.
Okay. So it's yeah. Okay. So it's not. I don't know why in some article that I read, because I was trying to do research ahead of time, like a little bit of research, and it was saying like how that was different, but maybe it's different for certain people that were used to the plate system, like having a plate.
Yeah, it is. It's different for people that are used to having plates.
Okay.
And I understand, the transition is difficult. As a consumer, you're used to a certain thing and you walk in and it's not that way anymore. And it can be frustrating. But what we tell people when they walk in is, well, we no longer offer plates. However, we can build you a plate.
Yeah.
Everything is priced a la carte. We can build you a plate. You just have to tell us what you want on it.
Yeah. And isn't that more fun to have like your choice of like how to
Well,
create?
yeah, and that's the way I look at it. I mean, we've basically given the power back to the consumer instead of telling them this is what's on your plate.
Yeah. And then what sides? And then do you guys have dessert too? You must have
Oh
some.
yeah, yeah. We have I think it's 13 different side options, and then we have two dessert options. So let me start at the top, and we'll work our way down. Our most popular side is Southern style potato salad. It's mustard and mayonnaise based.
Wow.
Then we also have a loaded potato salad, which is basically a baked potato without butter, but it's cold.
Oh, that's interesting.
Then we have collard greens, macaroni and cheese, ranch beans, pinto beans, green beans. We have two forms of slaw. We have a regular coleslaw, and then we have a broccoli slaw. We serve a Texas caviar, that's a traditional Texas caviar recipe with a lime vinaigrette on it. Then for desserts, we have a banana pudding and a chocolate Oreo pudding.
That's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of offerings, but it's our serving line is set up cafeteria style. So people walk down the line, they're looking through a sneeze guard, they can see all of the options. And I think it's really helpful for the consumer to be able to see it instead
Oh
of
yeah.
looking at a menu and saying, "What is Texas caviar?" Oh, that's what Texas caviar is.
Yeah, no. And when I had first heard that, I think yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, is it like Rocky Mountain oysters or some kind of weird like it's something else." Yeah, but but also too, no, I'm just saying for like from your side,
Yeah.
that's a lot of sides, and then you have a lot of proteins, and then you have two desserts, and you're offering a lot, and then you have your brunch. So are you open 7 days a week then? Because it's
We're open 6 days a week.
6 days a week.
When I took over, they were open 7 days a week. But you have barbecue pits that need to be cleaned. If you don't clean them, they become a fire hazard, and you're putting out barbecue that has not a very good flavor to it because the equipment that you're cooking on is not clean. So when the pandemic forced the first shutdown, I went to the owners and said, look, we really need to be closed on Monday. Yes, we're going to lose revenue, but we're also going to save labor expense and product expense because, we're not doing anything that day. And it gives me a chance to clean the pits and cook for the following day's service, without having to handle all of the moving pieces that go along with operating a business.
Yeah, and then also too, kind of semi-traditionally, places are closed on Mondays. That's
Most barbecue places in Texas are closed on Monday and Tuesday. We're open 6 days. We're open 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday.
and are you there most of the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're a hardworking guy. It makes sense, but it's like, oh, like that's a lot. Now, you guys, did you bring in you have one Moberg or two Mobergs?
I have two. Yeah, I brought in both Moberg 500s. Mobergs are one of the most well-known and best performing offset smokers on the market. Them in mill scale are pretty much the top of the food chain. When I started, they still had all of Ed Dozier's original direct hit pits. And did I say that right? Direct
No,
heat
no, you're
pits.
no, no,
Yeah,
you're,
yeah. Okay.
you're almost.
Almost got
You
it.
like split
Yeah,
direct
direct.
hit.
So they had all of Ed's direct heat pits still in place, and they were cooking chicken and ribs on them daily. And I mean that's fine for the '60s, but in the current era of barbecue, if you really want to stand out to the consumer, you've got to put out a product that's consistent with the modern era. So I did a taste test with the owners, and I said, hey, look, here's chicken and ribs off an offset. Here's chicken and ribs the way that y'all were cooking them. Tell me which one is better. And I didn't tell them which was which. And they said, oh yeah, this stuff is way better. And I was like, good, that's great. I need money to buy a couple of pits. And we bought a couple of Mobergs. So we've since added, we have an Euler 700, which had been there for 30 something years. That's my primary pit for cooking briskets. Then we added the Mobergs. The Mobergs were for small proteins, and I run those very hot, very fast, which is kind of my thing, hot and fast. And then
You get that thing from somebody?
yeah, I did. This guy named John Miller, who is known as the Dark Prince of Barbecue from the Louis Miller clan. John is a hot and fast guy. He doesn't use thermometers. He doesn't use temperature pins. He walks by and looks at the fire and says, "That's either hot enough or it's not hot enough." I just kind of picked that up from him. Now I think I'm actually cooking hotter than he is now, although there's no way to really know because again he doesn't use gauges. But I'm now on my small proteins. I'm running my pit 375 to 400. Even up to 425. Just depends on what we're cooking.
And for people that somehow maybe I don't know, most people are cooking around 225-ish, right?
No, so that's a misnomer.
Is that a misnomer? Is that something?
Yeah, it's a misnomer. Yeah, it's funny. I just listened to a podcast with Daniel Vaughn a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of came clean. His when he really first started, exploring Texas barbecue, he, like most people, had the belief that traditional Texas barbecues cook low and slow, 200, 225. That's really not accurate. If you look at the old school places in Central Texas, they're all using, brick pits.
Yeah, like Louis Miller.
Yeah, like Louis Miller, Taylor Cafe, Kreitz, Smitty's, Blacks, and they're using really hot fires. So they were already cooking hot and fast. It's just everybody assumed that they weren't because traditional barbecue is cooked low and slow, and that's just not really accurate.
25 come from then?
I really don't know the answer to that. It's one of those urban legends that is just kind of taken off now. So what I'm doing now is a blend. I am cooking briskets very low and very slow. Our briskets go on the pit unwrapped at 185 degrees. They cook for 6 hours unwrapped, to develop a bark and get smoke on them. After 6 hours, when the bark is formed, we'll put them in paper and put them back on the pit. And then they go another 12 hours at 185. So I'm going a solid 18 hours at 185 on briskets. I can cook a brisket hot and fast. I've done it most of my career. But with the equipment that we have in place, this process works very, very well for us. And the briskets all finished at the same time. I don't have to worry too much about checking all 30, 35 briskets and making sure that they're all done because I know they're going to be done.
Yeah, and you can know by touch, right?
Yeah, you can when they're in paper, you can just pick them up, and you can tell by the feel of the bottom of them or the bend when you pick them up. You can tell if they're done.
Wow, that's so interesting. This is what's so funny is it's taken 3 years for someone to talk about like the temperatures and how things, but it is funny, but also too because of John and did you work with him?
No, I've never worked with John. Just John. John and I became friends through a foundation that I was a part of. We used to do a very large charity cook in Houston. Back when craft barbecue was first really starting to take off. We would bring John into town and we'd do a massive cook.
Was that Neil? Was Neil there too?
Yeah, Neil came to one of them. Okay. Yeah, Neil Strouder.
Yeah.
Neil came down for one of those. But we would I'd run around begging and borrowing pits, and we'd set up what we called pit row, and we'd have 6 massive trailered pits, and we would cook 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of barbecue overnight with an army of volunteers, and then serve it the next day. And all the funds that we raised, we would donate to a charity of John's choosing, and it was usually something related to homeless veterans because that was a soft spot for John. So John and I became really good friends through that. I have cooked with him a number of times, at his place. He's come to my place, and then we've done those events together and just became.
I knew there was some sort of connection, and I didn't quite know how. And then But is there any kind of foundation, or is there a veteran thing that you support that we could talk about, or that you want to mention?
Yeah, there are a number of organizations out there, and I don't really want to say this organization or that because
Okay.
they're all pretty worthy. But there's a big need for support for veterans coming back. We've been at war for 20 something years, and being deployed does things to guys. They come back
Oh
and their
yeah.
their mental state is altered. You've got guys coming back with all sorts of physical ailments. So any foundation that is supportive of veterans who are struggling to rejoin civilian life or who have impairments,
Hmm.
those are definitely worthy foundations to get involved with.
Definitely. And I, it sounds sort of knee jerk, but thank you for your service. It's, I can't, you can't thank veterans enough. And so thank you so much for what you did. Were you in Iraq? Is that?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It was an easy decision for me. I was raised in a military family. My dad, his dad were all career Army officers. So I grew up traveling the world. And when I was in high school, I was smart enough to know that I didn't have the self discipline to go to college and be successful. And I had this romantic view of military life. Beginning of my senior year of high school, I decided I was going to join the Army. And went and talked to my dad and said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do." And he said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I said, "Yes, yes, I am." We went to the recruitment office, and I signed my delayed entry papers. And my entire senior year, I knew where I was going when I graduated.
Wow. Did you end up in what, how far back was this? Was this the first?
86. Yeah, I'm an old guy. This was back in 86.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, you're, I'm an old guy too. So it's,
Old guys unite.
yeah, exactly. I know it's,
Yeah.
we're old, but we're not old, but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so it was like Gulf War, it was Gulf War
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It was pre-Gulf War, but my time in service spanned that little excursion. Yeah,
Okay. Oh, okay. So that, but you did spend time overseas then.
I did.
Yeah, that must have been interesting. That's a discussion for another time. But
Yeah,
again, it's it's interesting too how there's a lot of families that military is built into the family. Like it's something
yeah,
like your uncles and your. I don't have as much of that in my family, but it's something that I have a lot of friends and a lot of guys too. I know that did the National Guard, kind of maybe in the back of their minds thinking I'll never probably see action, and then
yeah.
they
So
all guys
yeah,
that were in Afghanistan three
yeah, I
times.
have a cousin. I have a cousin who did that. I have a cousin who, when the Gulf War, the first Gulf War was really starting to kick off, he joined the National Guard thinking he would avoid getting
Yeah, of
shipped off, and then his unit was actually
course.
mobilized and was being deployed. So he moved to another state and joined the National Guard there, trying to avoid being deployed. And sure enough, he went to Colorado. He was there like 6 weeks, and they were
Oh,
mobilized
that's
and
so
deployed.
funny. Oh, that's so crazy. And it's interesting too. Like it's amazing that what's happening now, like if they're gonna pull troops from Afghanistan, and I have
Yeah.
friends that have been there, and it's just a wild the things that they've told me are things that it's hard to believe. I guess it's I guess the world's a weird it's a crazy place. But
Yeah, it is. It's definitely
it
crazy.
is a crazy place. Is there anything that we missed about Dozers, or there's anything about that you want people to know specifically about you or about the restaurant that they should know? Or I guess it's you said 11 to 7. Is that the
Yeah, Tuesday through Sunday, 11 to 7. Now I have to clarify that a little bit. We have a guy tethered to us selling crawfish during crawfish season. So on Friday and Saturday nights, right now I stay open until 8 to kind of make
oh
it
cool.
easier for people to come eat. And that's kind of a prelude to planned dinner service. I'm developing a dinner menu. I'm trying not to take on too many things at one time. Sometime in the next month, you'll see us add dinner hours on Friday and Saturday night, probably until 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. There will be an abbreviated dinner menu in addition to the full barbecue. Things like a smoked prime rib plate,
Nice.
smoked meatloaf plate, the smoked burger, the grilled cheese and brisket, those kinds of things. And then on Sunday, we just launched last weekend my barbecue brunch service. So on Sundays now we open at 10 a.m. We run brunch from 10 to 1. And at 11 a.m. we open the barbecue line. So 10 to 11 it's only brunch. At 11 o'clock you can get
Okay.
brunch or barbecue, and at 1 o'clock we shut down the brunch service.
And I saw that you have pork steaks, right?
Yeah, I do pork steak. So on the brunch menu, there's 7 items on the brunch menu. There's the red eye, which is my espresso rub pork ribs with a sweet cream waffle and a couple of eggs. There's a brisket hash, which is breakfast potatoes with a ranchero sauce, some chopped brisket, and a couple of eggs. Huevos rancheros, which is pinto beans, a couple of tostadas, ranchero sauce, couple of eggs, slice of brisket, and then the accoutrement. Then the smoked monkey bread, which is actually really, really good. Smoked monkey bread with bourbon infused raisins and a bourbon caramel sauce. Then a brisket on a biscuit, which is a smoked biscuit with cream gravy that's got a little bit of hot sauce in it, and brisket on top of it. It's a pretty well-rounded brunch menu.
Yeah, sounds like a
Yeah, for a place that is a 64-year-old barbecue place.
good on you. That sounds so, that alone sounds like everything else sounds great, but that sounds just like so special. Are there photos online of those items yet? Or
Yeah, there is. If you go to any of the Dozier's Barbecue social media or to my social media, it's at Dozier's BBQ. My social media is at JBuck, JBUCH013. You'll see pictures of all of the brunch items on those. And then Allison Cook with the Houston Chronicle wrote an article last week previewing the brunch service before we actually started it. There's pictures of all the items in that too.
okay, yeah, okay. I'll put links to all that stuff, and I'll do a companion blog, and then I'll also, if you're watching on the YouTube side, I'll have a montage of photos so that people kind of get hungry and get interested. That is so, and yeah, and also too, if Allison Cook, if she's listening, I've been trying to bug her because I've been trying to interview her for 3 years, but she hasn't responded. So let's see.
Allison's, she's a super nice lady.
Yeah, so nice.
I have a huge amount of respect for her, but she can be a little reclusive.
I don't honestly, I just don't think she wants to do it. That's just
could be. I mean, she's
there's a lot of people I've talked to. There's a guy that like for Food and Wine that David Lanzell, he's amazing, but he's like, I don't do interviews like that. I just don't do it. Yeah, so that's fine, and that's definitely fine. Well, but it is nice. It seems like the people are gravitating, like Eric and JC and Allison and Greg. It just seems like people are excited about what you're doing. And do you want me to put a link to the Daniel interest? Because it was interesting.